Seth Spears. Welcome to the Wealthy Wealthy podcast.
Hi, glad to be here.
I'm excited. We've been on the schedule for a while, and I've been really looking forward to this. And there's so many directions I want to take our conversation today. And you and I guess, how do we know each other? Just really through the wellness community.
I think so. Maybe through JJ or Mindshare. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think just overlapping segments of contacts, I think.
I think so. And I love your journey. You're such just a brilliant businessman, but really humble and committed not only to business growth but personal growth and spiritual growth. So there's just so many things I really admire about you, your work, and your journey. Starting us out, what's a little Seth journey? Tell us a little backstory. Like even growing up,
Oh.
have you always been a little entrepreneurial and curious, or
When I look back like on childhood, I was always a little bit rebellious. The phrase "because I said so" was never an answer that I accepted. And unfortunately, I heard that a lot from my parents, and that wasn't good enough for me. I've always just been intrinsically curious and wanted to know why things are the way they are, why the world works the way it does, why is the sky blue? You know, and the status quo just didn't work for me. Something that a lot of people may not know about me is that I was homeschooled from kindergarten all the way through high school. And so I think that really helped me question a lot of things, just the way things are. And I don't think it was necessarily what my parents intended. They were pretty controlling and very religious, and were trying to protect me from all the bad influences out there in the world more than just to get a better education. But by so doing that, it really made me question so many different things, their beliefs, just the status quo, things, the way the world works, whether that's education or business or religion or anything. So I think I've always kind of had that provocateur type of attitude of just wanting to know what makes things and people tick.
I love that. Wow, homeschooled. So that was not a thing back in the day.
I grew up in Kentucky, and I believe I was the first or second person in the modern age to start off being homeschooled at kindergarten. I think there was only like one other person at the time who was being homeschooled. This was like 1984, so a long time ago. Like it was so new that the fire department had to come out and approve our home that it was safe for kids to go to school in.
Wow. And were you homeschooled with siblings?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of six kids, and all of them were homeschooled as well.
All right. So when did you enter any type of formal education?
My freshman year of college would have been the first time.
And how
Uh,
was that experience? Like, how did it go? Like, was
y-
it just like big eye opening? Like, because I grew up in a small town. It wasn't
mhm.
homeschooled, but I mean, my town didn't even have a stoplight. It was so
Oh,
rural and
wow.
small. And that was my world. I'd never even been outside of my town for those 18 years. I went to college. I'm like,
Whoa.
oh my God. I mean, it was just like I arrived on another planet. Was it
Yeah.
similar for you?
I didn't grow up in necessarily a small town. It was Bowling Green, Kentucky. And at the time it was about 50,000 people. So it was small compared to like a big metropolitan city. Uh, but it was more, I constantly felt growing up that I was like held back socially because I had to struggle and fight for anything that I wanted to do, whether that was any type of social activity or playing sports or anything. It's just my parents were so overprotective in a lot of ways. So I remember my first night in the dorms, I'm laying in my bottom bunk, looking up, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm free. And it was just like this great sense of relief. And so it was really amazing. It's still one of my best memories of just realizing, oh, I can do whatever I want now. I'm not under the thumb of someone else. So I think the biggest challenge that I had in college was learning to take notes because I'd never had to do that before. Sitting in class, that wasn't a big deal. And I always enjoyed learning. I've always been a voracious reader, but the process of taking notes when a professor is talking, that was really challenging. And I'm still not a good note taker to this day.
Was there rebellion? Like, did you rebel against like the really strict upbringing? And then did that
You
rebellion
know,
turn you into an entrepreneur, or was it just,
Yeah, I mean, in college, I partied a lot, but I was always in control. I wasn't like a lot of my friends that had been raised super strictly, who grew up Catholic and went to a Catholic university. So, it was pretty religiously oriented. But I had a lot of friends that they party a hell of a lot harder than me and just like went balls to the wall all the time. I was mostly in control. So while I partied hard and had a lot of fun, it wasn't like I just went off the deep end and just flunked out or anything like that. I mean, I always made sure that I got my studying done, went to class, and with some exceptions here or there. And I was not a great student. I love to learn, but I didn't like the process of education. I think I learned early on in college that grades don't really matter, that it's all about the experiences you have, the people that you meet. And I got really disenfranchised. I think it was my sophomore, maybe junior year, had a history course, and it was the midterm, and it was all essay based. And so I'm going through it. I'm like, oh, I know this material really well. And so I went through and completed it, and I got a C on the midterm. And I went to the professor and I was like, what's going on? I feel like I got everything right. He's like, yeah, you did, but you just didn't write enough. I said, I didn't write enough. Okay. So was there an amount like a number of words? He's like, no, you just need to expand on it more. Like, okay, well then, so I can understand, tell me how much more do I need to expand? It's like, I need to understand that you really get this and you're going through the thought process of it. I'm like, okay, but I got every answer right. I jumped through the hoops. I did the dog and pony show. And now you're telling me it's not right, but you can't give me a clearly defined answer of what constitutes success here. And he wouldn't change the grade. And I'm like, okay, you know what? This is worthless. What's the point? So, and I kind of look at a lot of things like that of if something doesn't make sense logically, then I'm not going to follow those rules, because if I can't wrap my head around the reason for doing something and just going through the motions because that's the way we've always done it, that's not good enough. That doesn't work. So let's look at a different and better way.
Well, I'd venture to say that really is the entrepreneurial mindset is the status quo doesn't make sense. Why are we doing it this way? I need to challenge it. I'm just not going to follow what's been told. And let me be curious and invent. And is there something else? And can I create a better way?
Yeah.
So did your entrepreneurial journey begin right after college or weave us through college?
When
more or less
I
where we are
was
today?
in high school, my parents got involved with the multi-level marketing business, and it was in the health space. And so they had these really fantastic health and wellness products, primarily like vitamin supplements and water filters and ear filters and things like that. But they also had a marketing arm. And that's where I was really interested in, because it was like, okay, there's great products, but unless you can figure out a way to sell them, then it doesn't really matter. So I got really interested in marketing then. And so that was one of the impetus for why I went to college as a business major. So I graduated with a degree of business administration with a concentration in marketing. And the sole reason was because I think I was like 16 at the time when my parents were working with that company. And so that really opened my eyes to what marketing is and how important it is. So I would say that was kind of my first foray into anything entrepreneurial or business related. But then after college, I took a year off from bartending and waited tables. And I paid my way through school, bartending tables, and just trying to make as much cash as I could so I didn't have to take on a lot of student debt and all that. And then I moved back home for a year, continued to do that. And then the next summer, I ended up walking across the country for a nonprofit, just trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And ended up meeting someone who became my wife at the time, and then moved to Nashville shortly thereafter, and got a job with a university as the assistant director of admissions. And then that kind of led me down an entrepreneurial path from there when I got burnt out with working for someone else.
So you quit probably the day job, and was it you and Katie, your wife at the time? What was the entrepreneurial move? Was it, I mean, you
Yeah.
started in the health space. Like, what was the transition from
Well,
going from where you were to creating this whole new idea that clearly is blown up and done very well? And we'll
yeah.
talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. So there's actually a couple things that came before all of that. And one, I got into real estate investing. So
Mhm.
my father had been in real estate for many years, just investing, flipping properties, fix and flips, buy and hold, rentals, things like that. And so I went through some training on that. I'm like, oh, it's a great opportunity. And so this is 2007. So ended up dabbling in that. And you know what happened shortly thereafter? The whole market kind of crashed. And so I got out of that with, I didn't lose any money, but I did not make the hundreds of thousands that I was expecting to. But I bought really well on some properties and was able to get out from under those So that was kind of my first foray into entrepreneurship, I guess. And then from there, because I was working in collegiate admissions and I had a background in homeschooling, I saw an opportunity where the skill set that I had in my background, where I could help homeschool students prepare for college. Because most students, they don't really know what all they need to do. But most homeschool students, most of the parents don't either, at least at the time. And so I'm like, well, I could do consulting for them. And I went through Jeff Walker's product launch formula and like, okay, I can create a whole course around this and consult and everything. So my first foray, I created a company called Homeschool College Counselor and built out a website and create a program for it and like email opt-ins and kind of the whole digital marketing thing. And I launched that. I did some consulting and speaking and quickly realized that just because there's an opportunity here, if the target audience doesn't know that it's something that they need, then it's really hard to sell it to them. So it was around that same time that I left that job where I was living in Nashville, Tennessee at the time, and as the assistant director of admissions for a small little liberal arts college there. And then I went and did that. And then around the same time, I had some friends who were starting businesses and some family. And like, hey, Seth, I saw you just built a website for yourself. Could you help me do that? Like, okay, sure. Why not? So I kind of started dabbling in website design. And then one thing led to another. And so I started a boutique digital marketing agency, doing website design and then SEO and social media. And it was around that same time where Katie, my now ex-wife, she had been a journalism major in college and then had gone back to school for nutrition. And so I saw the power of self-publishing, where this is when blogs were really just taking off. And I've been dabbling in those for many years. Now, I'd always been kind of a tech early adopter. And so I convinced her to start a blog. And originally that was supposed to be a political blog because we were both kind of somewhat interested in politics at the time. And she was a great writer. But she pushed back and like, I don't think I want to write about politics. I think I'll just get too cynical and burnt out. I'm really enjoying what I'm studying about nutrition and figure out my own health issues and trying to figure out how to be healthier for our family. So I think I'd rather just document kind of my journey on what I'm doing there. I'm like, okay, sure. So I built around a site and then I used that as a testing ground for my paying clients. And that site became wellnessmama.com, which grew to become one of the most popular health and wellness websites, blogs, and podcasts, specifically for moms in the health and wellness space.
What I listen there is that when you kind of stumbled into this next thing and realized like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this. And this sounds like it was 2008, 9, 10 when blogging was really starting to become popular and SEO and the internet was now more mainstream as opposed to, something newer that was, closer to the 2000s. But what I hear there is an expertise, like Katie was this expert and she was a great writer. So the skill of writing, but writing and then writing about health stuff, target audience, mamas, and then really connecting that with marketing and all the, website marketing, SEO, keywords, all the things. And mashing those two together was
Yeah.
the success formula.
Very much so. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, as far as thinking outside the box and looking at how things are done and doing it differently, in the health space, nobody had really focused on some of these digital marketing principles. And because I had gone really deep on everything digital marketing and followed all the gurus, Jeff Walker, Frank Kern, Evan Pagan, all of these guys are kind of the OGs in the digital marketing realm. And because with what I was trying to launch originally in the homeschool space, and I was trying to apply those principles. And then like, oh, well, we can do this in the health space too. And then because I was working in the digital marketing space in the boutique agency that I started, I was working with a lot of local businesses. So a lot of plumbers and doctors, attorneys, mom and pop shops and things like that. And that was a lot easier to rank for from an SEO perspective. And so I just applied a lot of those same things to what we're doing on a more macro level in the health space. And it really was the perfect storm because we were in the right place at the right time for sure. And just kind of saw the trends, what it was doing. I had a skill set, she had a skill set, and it was the marriage of those two that really helped it to grow. And I've always been a big fan of copy blogging. So they were super popular, kind of in the digital marketing space, but not the same direct response style. It was more really good content and teaching people how to do things and using social media and a little bit of SEO as well. And so I thought it was a more ethical approach than some of the more direct response. Let's just do a launch and sell, and then that's it. It was more of an ongoing interacting with the community and building an audience. And so I applied a lot of those principles with what we were doing at Wellness Mama, and it worked really well for many years.
Yeah, good timing. And I'm just so impressed. Like, talk about early adoption. You're really right there at the beginning of digital marketing when everything was starting to go to the web and information marketing. And that wasn't mainstreamed. People didn't have online programs and online coaching and online
Yeah.
everything. Like now it's ubiquitous, it's kind of the standard model, but you were there before that curve. So, how'd you stumble even, like you said, the OGs of digital marketing, Frank Kern, Jeff Walker, like you said, Evan Pagan. How'd you stumble across those guys? Like, they weren't, I mean, that was kind of
Yeah.
fringe. It wasn't really well known.
Great question. Trying to think back. I've always been a voracious reader and learner. And if I'm interested in something, I'll just go down rabbit holes and just Google searches and things like that. And I don't know, I was pretty active on like Twitter at the time, and a lot of those guys were. Yeah, I don't even remember honestly, but it's like you go down these little rabbit holes and just follow these golden threads, and you find different people and just kind of start reading their stuff and following what they're doing. And I've never considered myself a creative in like the kind of the traditional creative sense of like you have a really beautiful painting behind you. And if I see a blank canvas and like, hey, paint something amazing, I thumbs up. I don't know what to do. But where my skill set is taking bits and pieces from here and here and kind of molding them together and alchemizing it into something different. And that's what I've done throughout my entire business career is finding things in different areas and using them in whatever I'm focused on. So for example, taking those principles in the direct response space, those were in the digital marketing space, and applying them into the health space, which had never happened before. And now it's like that's everything. And so
Right.
it doesn't work the same way just because everybody's done it. It's kind of like the copycat marketing. But at the time, it was nobody was doing it. And so when I started getting involved, like different masterminds and events, we were like, how are you getting so much traffic? What are you doing? Like, we're just selling products or a course or things like that. And for us, it was always just about creating really high quality content, optimizing as best we could for SEO, including links, affiliate links in content to products that we really trusted. And because there are so many people, they would just link and sell anything. And it was more, we're only going to link to things and promote things that we personally purchased, have tried, and can vouch for, and that we recommend whether we're making a commission on it or not. And so it was just that level of quality and just a value system that people really saw and respected. And I think that's one of the reasons that it grew so fast.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. That the Wellness Mama brand that you all created, it had the quality to it and an authenticity. And it wasn't just like, hey, we have a big audience, we're going to sell things we don't believe in. It's always had that I don't know, your ethics kind of built into that, what you really believe in. And yeah, it grew fast, but it's sustained also, still is, one of the leading brands. If you're anywhere on the internet, Wellness
Yeah.
Mama pops up. But I'd
Yeah.
say like even the longevity would be because you guys have always stood for something.
Yeah, I think putting a line in the sand and saying, this is what I stand for, and this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm not going to do. That's really important. And, it's not nearly as popular as it used to be for when Katie kind of took a hiatus and stepped away, and I'm no longer actively involved there. But then also because Google made so many changes there's been so many updates and changes, especially post COVID and everything, where anything health related, they're just ranking the status quo and not looking at alternative viewpoints. I've got a really good friend who she went through some really challenging health issues with her thyroid and some others. And she said to me, this is a few years ago, she's like, if the search engines, the way they rank things now, if they were doing that back in the early 2010s, I'd be dead right now because I wouldn't be able to find the information that I needed to heal my thyroid, to get healthy, because it's all just kind of the Wikipedia blah of standard practices, but that doesn't work for so many people. And so I think that's very telling. And again, we were at the right place at the right time and just questioned everything and looked at the science and some of the alternative viewpoints and things. And like, okay, let's just not follow because this is what everyone else is saying. Maybe there's another way.
Let's talk about that. When now that, 15 years or so of entering in the space early on, what are and you're for everybody listening, Seth is an expert marketer. Like you are a marketing genius. You do it today. You've built many brands and have built them really well. And studied this, been a student of marketing, even studying from the greats, and now becoming a great yourself. Starting off, what are some of the marketing principles that are timeless that when you started are still applicable today? We'll start there and then we're going to talk about the changes. But
Yeah.
yeah, what are things that just don't change that those that are listening that are entrepreneurial, trying to build businesses or building brands and they just can't quite figure out this marketing thing to get some traction? What do you say to them?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think at times it could be industry specific, but as far as the things that I always look at, people do business with those that they know, like, and trust. And so whenever you're building a brand, your brand is everything that you stand for. It is the look, the feel, the touch, the taste, the smell, the feeling that someone gets when they see it and interact. If you look at brands that are very timeless and you just see their logo, say, take Coca-Cola, for example. When you see that, you're going to get a certain feeling based on your experience with it. If you see the Apple logo, if you see Procter and Gamble, it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe it's a big company, maybe it's a small one, but it all is a feeling that you're getting, something, an association that you have with it. So I think brand building is really important. And this is something that's changed for me over the years. Back when I was very into the digital space, it was more, let's just build something to sell. And it's all about the quality of what it is. And while I still agree with that, I think that building a brand that is more sustainable over the long term, because it is that association that people are making with you and with the products and with the services that you're selling.
Yeah, and I like that. I associate brand building to, I'm in the money space and teach wealth principles alongside business principles. But where wealth and business principles really align, they align so much. Like it's really amazing. Actually, health too. Business, health, and financials, like all can parallel each other as far as the principles and kind of laws underneath. But with wealth, when we're looking at that, we're investing over a long period of time consistently and according to some type of plan or strategy or standards, like you said, or your line in the sand. And it takes time and it just builds and grows slowly over time. But you need to start with kind of that end in mind of where you want to be. And I look at that as branding, and I'm curious if you do too. That it's like from the beginning, it's like, what do I stand for? What does my brand stand for? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What are these different properties? And knowing it might not have a lot of traction in the beginning, but you just keep building on that and it grows over time and it becomes one of the most, as far as financial terms, one of the most valuable assets of a business, because when you have a brand that stands for itself, you don't have to spend so much money on marketing. But
Yeah.
it's again, it's kind of thinking, like you said, it's such a timeless principle of what do you stand for? What is
Yeah.
this brand? And if you're going to be in this game for a long time, how do you want it to stand out?
Yeah. My formula for success for many, many years has been do the right things long enough consistently. And I think that's applicable, whether that's in business or branding or marketing or wealth building as well. It's the principle of compounding. Then it gets into the nuances of what are the right things, how long, and what does consistency mean? And I think it's going to depend on the industry and a lot of variables there. Yeah, but I think that kind of speaks to what you're talking about here.
Yeah, I totally agree. So one timeless principle is if we're building a business and a brand, people need to know, like, and trust you. And that's what we're working on over time. So branding, what else as far as
Mhm.
just some of these things that you're still practicing today as you were at the beginning?
Yeah, I think it's focusing on the quality. So as an example, my current company is Wellness. So we're a B Corp certified brand of all natural personal care products. And so our oral care line, it's the best on the market. We have the cleanest ingredients. We're the most sustainable company. When we launched it, we're like, we want to set ourselves apart from everyone else. How can we differentiate? I think being different that's something that nobody can take away from you unless they're copying you and then they're trying to have more homogeneity around it. But differentiating is so important. And especially when you're differentiating based on the quality of what you're doing, whether that's your products or services. So for example, with our toothpaste, we use microhydroxyapatite, which is a naturally occurring mineral. So no fluoride, no glycerin, no SLS. Yeah, that's a charcoal. yeah, we are differentiating based on the product quality. And, there's a lot of other companies out there that are differentiating as well. A lot of them use nanohydroxyapatite, which is not naturally occurring, that's lab created. And they're now saying that that ingredient can cross the blood-brain barrier. And we don't know what the long-term effects of that are. The EU just banned it in personal care products. So, but it was kind of controversial when we decided to go the more natural route, because most of the studies were saying the nano is the one that's more effective. I'm like, okay, maybe there's not as many studies for micro, but we're going to err on the side of caution and make sure that it's as natural as possible. So that's one example. The second one would be our packaging, where all of our tubes, we use a recycled sugarcane bioplastic. And so that is compostable in either a commercial grade composter or in like the Lomi countertop compost device. Nobody else is doing that in the market. So everything else is just single-use plastic or aluminum or something like that. And so we really wanted to differentiate ourselves in that manner. And I feel like that is one thing that's really serving us as we gain traction and continue to take market share.
All right. So quality, differentiation. Give me a third.
Third, I think it's the consistency in your branding. When you start out, often brand building can seem like an ego play, especially when you're young. It's like, oh, look at me. But no one knows who you are, so it doesn't matter. So you have to focus on the quality of it and then consistently have the same branding so people get used to it. And word of mouth marketing is always the best. Anytime you can get people talking about it and telling their friends, that is hands down the best marketing, and one we always want to optimize for if possible. But it's hard to do that unless you are creating really quality products. And so you give people something to talk about. Seth Godin, who was a brilliant marketer, I followed his work for many years. He has a book called Purple Cow. Fantastic marketing book. And the premise of the book is that if you're driving down the road and you see a field of cattle, and there's white, there's brown, there's black cows, there's red, standard, right? But if you see a purple cow, you're going to pause and take notice because it's so different. And so that's kind of the principle here, is how can we be a purple cow? How can we differentiate ourselves so much that it's different and it stands out from what everyone else is doing? Not just doing something just to be different, but different for the right reasons, because the quality is better.
Awesome. Now let's talk about what's different. So, like you said, Google's changed a lot of the algorithms, social media. Just as a marketer, how hard is marketing today just to stay on top of all the changes? But
Oh,
two,
man.
what are you finding is most effective as we speak? It could be different tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a really loaded question. I feel like everything is different now. I used to feel like I was an expert in the SEO space, and now I feel like I know the basic principles, but that's it, because it's changed so much. And what used to work is not working in the same way, just because it's gotten so much harder to rank. And I think what Google says and what they're doing are different things. So not always, but a lot. We built Wellness Mama just strictly organically, never paid for followers, never did any type of advertising, anything like that. And just were able to rank organically. That same playbook doesn't work these days because there's so much competition. Like, I can't imagine trying to go into the health and wellness space now, just with how hard it is, how much more challenging, how much competition there is. So it really is pay to play in a lot of ways, whether that's Facebook and Instagram ads, whether that's Google AdWords, TikTok Shop as well. For wellness, we're experimenting with a lot of different paid strategies, everything from influencers, which, we talk about an industry that's totally disrupted everything, because it used to be like the affiliate space. You find someone who's a content creator, usually has a blog or a website, or maybe they're on YouTube, and you sign a deal with them where they're making a percentage for everything that they sell through their links. But now, like the influencers, they want to be paid just based on the number of followers. I personally don't like this model because it's based on the number of eyeballs that they have, but it's not based on conversions. So you can spend a whole lot of money and it's basically just brand building, but it doesn't necessarily equate to conversions. And there's so many ways to scheme it that I've seen across the board, where they build out these networks of like all these different influencers where they say they have high engagement, but it's just like a big circle jerk of like, I'm going to like your stuff, you like mine. And it's not actual real people who are actually interested and want to purchase. So I'm not a big fan of that model. I think it can work, and you want to make sure that anyone that you're working with that the quality of they have some standards of quality, and they're not just promoting anyone and everyone, and they're not buying followers and things like that. But I think it's changed so much. I mean, from the influencer model to paid. I mean, we're testing out ads with Snapchat and Reddit and Pinterest and all these others, just to see, throwing stuff at the wall just to see what sticks. And so instead of just looking at a single channel and do we have a positive return, and looking, ROAS is one of the metrics that we look at, return on ad spend. But often it's we don't have a positive ROAS on if you're looking at each channel individually. So we're looking at more, what is the total ad spend, and is our cash in more than the cash out every week or every month based on the spend. And it's more of like an omni-channel marketing strategy, just because the more direct strategies, they're just not working like they used to. And then we're also seeing the Amazon effect, because we sell our products on Amazon. So it's often people's buying habits have changed so much, where they'll see us on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or somewhere else, or YouTube. And then they're not clicking the link to go and buy from our website, but then they're going to Amazon and they're searching for it and purchasing there. But the problem is that's not directly attributable. So I don't have eyes on that where I can see where it's coming from and what's working. And that's been incredibly frustrating.
That would be frustrating. So what I take from all that, where before you could really build a brand, a really nice, profitable business, probably, multi-seven-figure business by word of mouth and organic traffic and affiliations and a lot of strategy and intention. But that same model won't work today because it's so crowded, and because it's crowded, noisy, everybody's trying to sell something. And so today it's really taking ad budget. So if you have products, then if you're getting into this entrepreneurial space, you might factor in that you're going to have a certain budget to
Yeah.
start building, to put towards the ad space. But then it's just not the
Yeah.
cost of the ads, it's learning how to build the ads and testing the
Or
ads
hiring
and
an agency to manage it for you.
the management of the ads and the funnel with people click what happens after an ad. And that's what I'm finding, is that that's where business is different. I like you have been business my entire career. And what's harder about it today is just that we could build simple funnels and we could have simple, maybe, ads and things. But now it's a much more complicated model and strategy, and it's changing all the time. Like you said, there's all the different channels. It's like, oh my God. And you're a marketer and saying this, this can be frustrating and a challenge. So what does everybody else do?
Yes. I made a lot of mistakes over the years, and I have another side company called Wild Gear, where this is really a passion project that I started with my brothers. And so we made knives and fire starters and backpacking grills and camping utensils. It was really just, we launched it to scratch our own niche of creating really cool outdoor camping equipment. So I made a drastic mistake in launching that company, where I did not build an audience first. And when we launched Wellness, basically we took the audience over Wellness Spa and were able to direct them to the products to buy. So we already had an audience in one company to direct them to another one. I've done a lot of angel investing in the health and wellness space over the years, and have been able to provide strategic value of driving traffic and influence, and not just writing a check, because anybody can write a check, but what are you going to do with that money? It's more about how are you going to strategically involve yourself so that you can actually provide real value of sales. And so I think anybody getting started now, it's build an audience first and then sell them something. And that was kind of the copy blogger model that I talked about earlier, of build an audience, get raving fans, people that know, like, and trust you, and then figure out what they need or want, and then you can sell them something, as opposed to building something and trying to sell a non-existent audience. So I think that's one of the principles that's kind of a timeless principle as well.
And do you have any favorite channels? Like, if you had to choose one, what would you choose?
When you say favorite channels, as far as marketing channels or people that I'm following?
Yeah, both. Let's do both.
Yeah. Okay. Is platforms as far as like software?
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, if you're blogging, I think WordPress is still a great platform for that. As you're going the social media route, it depends on what type of medium you prefer. If it's video, I mean, YouTube obviously is great. Obviously the short videos now with YouTube, Shorts, Instagram, Facebook Reels, TikTok. Those are all a great way to do it. And those algorithms are different for each channel. If you are focusing on physical products, I mean, I really like Shopify just because it's built specifically for that. So I think it's very specific to what you're trying to do and where your audience is and what you're trying to sell or type of content you're creating.
And do you just sell products, or do you sell any type of informational products like courses or coaching or?
Yeah, with wellness, no, nothing like that. It's all just physical products.
All right, well, let's talk. Let's move over to wellness a little bit. And
Yeah.
I've got wellness. I've got lots of goodies here, and so we'll just talk through them very quickly. But I know kind of your entry to this market was the toothpaste, and you mentioned
Mhm.
that a little bit. This is the best toothpaste, and I am a
Thank
product
you.
snob, toothpaste snob, and I've tried so hard to find the best toothpaste because, I mean, our one, it's oral hygiene, but this is where everything starts is our mouth, and if we're
Yeah.
starting with toxins in our mouth, it's just gonna go downhill from there if we keep adding everything, and I don't think we talk enough about oral health and toothpaste, for example. So you said, you guys really wanted to be number 1 in quality when it comes to toothpaste, so
Mhm.
talk about this real quick, and
Yeah.
who wants to use this toothpaste?
Health starts in the mouth, whether what we're eating, what we're putting, what we put on our body, we're putting in our body. And we're inundated with toxins day in and day out. And we're constantly seeing new studies coming up about all the PFAS across the board. And that's just increasing our toxic load. So everything that we do, whether that's the water we're drinking, the air that we're breathing, the food that we're consuming, the products we're putting on our body or that we're surrounded with, we need to look at how clean they are. How can we reduce the toxic load that our bodies are inundated with day in and day out? And it's getting harder and harder to do that. And so there's a study that came out a while back that said basically, if you have a pH of 6.8, you can't get cavities. Now, the question remains, how do you keep your mouth at a constant pH of 6.8? Because based on what we're eating, what we're drinking, we're up late, there's so many variables. So it's pretty hard to do that. But our mission with Wellness is to create the best oral care products so that it gives your body the optimal way to take care of itself. And because the oral microbiome is so important, that is the gateway to health. And so, if you are eating nothing but crap, it doesn't matter how many times you're brushing your teeth, that's going to adversely affect it. So starting with what you're consuming is very important for oral health. But outside of that, I mean, having a toothpaste that is really good for you, that is going to support your oral microbiome and that optimal pH level is really important. And like I mentioned before, we don't use the crap that a lot of others are. We don't use fluoride, which is considered a very bad toxin and that is a carcinogen. And there's a reason why there's a poison control label on many toothpastes, because if you take too much, it's really, really bad for you. So you could eat a whole tube of ours and without issue. I mean, might not feel great, probably gonna have to go to the bathroom, but outside of that, it's not gonna kill you and you don't have to call poison control. So it's focusing on first principles of what you're putting in that's going to have an effect no matter what. And so let's start there and try to optimize.
And then we've got some shampoo and conditioner.
Mhm.
Shampoos and conditioners have a lot of toxins as
Oh,
well, and
yeah.
finding clear shampoo and conditioner is
Mhm.
difficult. So again, thank you. And again, when it just comes to trust, like you said, trusted brand, I
Mhm.
love and buy your products because I just trust you.
Thank
And I
you.
know what your, the standards to every product you make, and I don't have to think about it. I don't have to do any more research. I don't have to look up
Yeah.
all the ingredients.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we've done a few studies, and most people, no matter how health conscious they are, the products that they have the hardest time switching out are the toothpaste, the shampoo, conditioner, and deodorant. It's because it's what they have used for years, what their parents purchased, what their spouse purchased, what they just grew up using. And so it just becomes a habit. And, you go to Kroger or Whole Foods or Costco or Target or wherever, and, you're out of your shampoo or you're out of deodorant or toothpaste, and you just get whatever's cheapest or whatever your parents bought or what you're used to. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a lot of conscious thought as far as how are these products affecting you. And so our mission is really to educate people and say, hey, what are you actually putting in and on your body? let's be a little bit more conscious about this. Let's think about it and look at ingredients and not just go along with what we've been sold by P&G over the years. Just ingredients that are not good for us. They're really cheap. They work. I mean, they make our hair look good. They clean our teeth. They keep us from sweating. But is that a good thing? Like our deodorant it's a deodorant, but it's not an antiperspirant because your body is supposed to sweat. If you're blocking that, that's a problem. Those pores, if they're blocked, that sweat has to go somewhere. That's going to back up. That's going to increase your toxic load. That's causing all types of health issues down the road. So the ingredient quality is just super, super important. And I just implore everyone to ask those questions. What are the ingredients in these products that I'm using? Look at the labels. Like, ask the hard questions and don't just go along with what you've always done.
So real quick, fluoride in toothpaste, that's a carcinogen, come to find out, and it's in our water and everywhere. So water filters, and we could go off on a tangent here, but what ingredients to look for in toothpaste, what ingredients to look for in shampoo and conditioner, just if anybody's looking at their current products, be like, oh my God, yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, there's so many. In toothpaste, obviously fluoride is the big one. SLS is another one. That's usually like a firming agent. Glycerin is another one that isn't great because it can coat the teeth. So when it comes to your oral care, having hydroxyapatite, because our teeth are made of hydroxyapatite. It's a naturally occurring mineral when you're using micro. And so because of that, it's really good for your teeth. It will help to remineralize them. If you have cavities or soft spots that are turning into cavities, by using that consistently, we have hundreds of testimonials from customers who have used it and have reversed or remineralized their cavities. We are working with a whole lot of biological and holistic dentists that love our products because they've seen what it can do and how much more effective and safer it is. So looking at those ingredients is really, really important. And also our toothpaste is white, which a lot of people really like because, we drink a lot of coffee and tea and, things like that. And just so many other toxins that we're surrounded by, which will help to whiten your smile.
Awesome. And then biggest thing with deodorant is the antiperspirant and the aluminum.
Antiperspirant, aluminum. Yeah, there's so many ones in there that if it's blocking your pores, that's the problem. One of the things, there's getting to be a lot more healthy options now, which is great. Many people, though, baking soda is one of the active ingredients, sodium bicarbonate. And for some people, it causes them to itch or break out just because of the levels. So we've reduced the levels in ours so that most people who have sensitive skin and have issues with other natural deodorants, they don't seem to have the same issue with ours.
So everybody listening, I'd really encourage you to check out the shampoo and conditioner, the toothpaste, the mouth blend, and the deodorant. And I'm a big soap bar. I love bar soap. So anyway, all your products are amazing, and we're going to make it really easy in the show notes to click a link and hook over to Wellness and buy these products. They're just, again, they're great products.
Thank you.
And another thing I'd just like to say that most everybody, like you said, goes to Amazon and buys these things. And I'm just one, like, find the wholesome, holistic kind of mom and pops, if you will, that their whole passion and desire is to make the world a better place and a healthier place. And they're doing the hard work and, raising a family at the same time, and to really support the brands that are going that extra mile and do stand for quality, especially in this health and wellness space that is crowded. And so I do so much research to find the best products for for me, my family, and you're just my go-to. So thank you for your commitment to this level of quality, because I'm sure it's not easy. It's not inexpensive. There'd be lots of ways to try to cut it to have higher profit margins. And it's like, no, this is what we stand for.
Yeah, on that note, our cost of goods on, say, our toothpaste is more than what a retail cost of a tube of, say, Crest or Colgate would be. And that just speaks to the quality of the ingredients that we're using and the fact that we are more sustainable, like the tubes that we use that are compostable. So because of that, we don't want to sacrifice these things. We can make a lot more by cutting corners, by sacrificing some of that quality, but then you lose that trust, and it's not what we're about. People, planet, profit, in that order is how I like to look at it.
People,
People, planet, and profit. So focus on
planet,
people,
profit.
create products that are great for people. Folks make sure that they're just sustainable, so it's better for the planet, and then make a profit from there.
Awesome. So Wellness as a brand, be sure to check it out and test some of the products. Let's do a little segue now as we come into the top of the hour here. And entrepreneurialism, it's hard, it's complicated, it's long hours, it's rewarding, it's all the things. And I'm an entrepreneur, been one my whole life. I interview lots of entrepreneurs, and it's easy to talk about business. But how do you mash up business and life? This going after the business success and growing the business and all these things, like, as long as I grow a big business all my life is gonna be just fine. But I think we've all come to learn that have been doing this for a while, they can't come at the cost of our health, of our relationships, of our own personal well-being. What do you say about that?
Wow, yeah, so many things. Yeah, I've kind of run the gamut over the years, and just I'm kind of in this place now where I'm trying to focus on more work-life balance. Because when you're a business owner and you have a passion for something, and I think often many of us get into entrepreneurship or business in general coming from a place of lack. We're trying to prove something. We're trying to prove that we're good enough, that we have a skill set. Maybe we're bullied as a kid, or we're made to feel like we're inferior in some way. So it's almost trying to prove that we are worthy, that we can do something. And so it's that drive that helps us to become successful. And that's great in the short term. I mean, that's like the impetus for it. But in the long term, that doesn't work because it's not fulfilling. It's not sustainable. And so I think it's getting to a place where you still have that drive and you can do those things, but also trying to find a little bit more balance and say, yes, I can do that. Yes, I'm going to grind. Yes, I'm going to strive and I'm going to build this. But also let's balance that out a little bit with family, with community, with friends, so that it's not just go, go, go at the expense of relationships. Because in the end of the day, it's about the relationships. It's about community. And we become so divided culturally, politically, societally. But the things that we tend to agree on, I think, are greater than the things that we disagree on. And so the more we can focus on those things where we agree, of like being healthier, having a good life, raising our children in a healthy manner, productive, and constant learning and evolution. I think those are things that we can all agree are good and we want to move towards. So it's just, not getting so stuck in this old paradigm, but kind of looking at where we're going and why.
And you and Katie built this brand, the first brand, and worked together, had 6 kids together, and then divorced and co-parenting. What is like life after divorce? Like, how are you managing 6
Yeah.
kids? And I know you guys are friendly and have made things really amicable, which is awesome. But yeah,
Yeah.
how is Seth now creating his new
Yeah.
products, his new brands, being an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, new city, 6 kids? Yeah, what's a day in the life of Seth look like?
Every day's different. It's a challenge, honestly. We were in Florida, and then when we split up, I never liked Florida. We moved down there for beaches and taxes, and the environment, the heat and humidity, the community just didn't resonate with me. It wasn't my people. And then when the marriage fell apart, I made the conscious decision where I need to go somewhere where it lights me up, because all I have is my kids and they're getting the worst version of me, because like I'm traveling all the time for work. I'm not happy here. I haven't had any stimulating intellectual business or otherwise conversations since I've been here. And it's just not my people. So I made the conscious decision to move to Colorado part-time and then split time. So back and forth. So when I'm in Colorado, I'm in work mode. I'm hanging out with friends. I'm focusing on myself, spending time in nature. And then when I'm back in Florida, I'm in dad mode. So I'm with the kids and I'm focusing on them and their activities and things. And, it can be a lot. I'm not going to lie, trying to co-parent, especially long distance, is not easy. And many days I feel like I'm failing on all fronts. But I think if it was easy, everyone would do it. And whether that's in business or parenthood or anything, because none of us get out of this alive. So how can we make it easier? How can we have more fun? How can we do what lights us up and also be a good example for our family, for our friends and others? And I think that's a constant process that I'm constantly learning and trying to figure out.
I love that. And you know what I love about your story is that it's looking to live life fully in all these things. Like, how do I be a great dad? While at the same
Mhm.
time fulfilling on my own personal, ambition and happiness and integrate the two of you those. And you've really done the work to figure out how to do that and what's working and adjusting, but without having to sacrifice one for the other necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised in a family where love equates to sacrifice. Like, in order, love means pain in a lot of ways. And so the only way you show someone you love them is by constantly sacrificing yourself and everyone around you. And that was not a great example. And there are so many people that think, oh, well, if you love your kids, you're just going to do everything for them at the expense of yourself. But that's not setting a good example of self-love or boundaries or having a balance. So it's just not all about them. And yes, they're incredibly important. They are the next generation. They are the future, but let's show them a different way. Let's show them it's about having a balance, and it's not all or nothing, not all about them. It's not all about me. And it's not just being selfish, but selfish sometimes. That's not necessarily always a bad thing, because sometimes we have to. We can't pour from an empty cup. So we got to fill ourselves up before we can help with others. And so I think it is finding that balance in there, and that's a moving target.
Yeah. All right, just a couple more questions. The first one is, looking back, if you had an opportunity to do something all over again based on what you know now in this kind of entrepreneurial journey since post college, a few years post college, but until now, anything you would change? I mean,
That's a
there's always a thing that I
yeah,
wouldn't change anything, so I wouldn't be the person I am.
sure.
But just
Yep.
really looking like reflecting
Yeah.
back, if I'd know now what I, knew then or whatever,
Mm.
what would I have done differently?
Hindsight's always 2020. I think it would have been to lean in even farther to my skill set and not be afraid to, like, not hold back, to just lean in more and say, hey, I do have a skill set here. Hey, charge my worth, especially when I was in the marketing space for so many years. And I definitely want to provide great value, under promise and over deliver. That was kind of my motto. But I was not charging for what I was actually worth. I didn't see the value that I brought. For many years, I didn't see the value that I brought in growing wellness model. And I looked at what my ex-wife was doing, and because she was the writer, she was the face, but realizing that it wouldn't have grown. It wouldn't be a platform. It wouldn't be the thing if it wasn't for the skill set that I brought to the table, and was that consistent force that kind of kept her at bay and helped her to focus on some of these things and really help direct the ship. So I think it would have been to leaning into my gifts and talents and going all in on some of these things a lot earlier.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with that one. All right, final question is, I just like to do a little myth busting. Anything to do with business or even the wellness space, like just a myth out there that you'd like to bust?
Ah, I think in the health space, there's biohacking is such a big thing. We're looking at every new device and technology, and we have so much data, and we've got our Oura Ring and our Whoop and our Apple Watch, and we're tracking everything. But often that's just an excuse to just create anxiety and, like, oh, well, my sleep wasn't that great. But it really, health can be pretty simple. I mean, it's getting harder, but drink clean water, breathe clean air, get some morning sunlight, eat real food, like not the processed crap. Spend time with community and family. Get into nature. Disconnect from your electronics. Like, do less and be more. And I think it's just simplifying and being present.
I just love that. I was talking to my husband the other day, and I was talking to him about a conversation I'd had, and a friend, an old friend that I hadn't talked to in a long time, had moved overseas and moved back, and she was asking me like, "Hey, Krisstina, how are you?" And she's like, "Really? Like, how are you?" I said, "I'm really good, and my life is good because it's simple." It's just simple. I've removed just all the drama, complexities, overwhelm, all the devices and stuff with data and trying to be perfect, whatever it is. And it's like my life pretty much is what you just said every day,
Yeah.
getting, living my purpose through my work. But other than that, it's everything you just said. And it's like, wow, life is really good when it's that simple. You can just really enjoy the sunlight and
Yeah.
you feel really good and have energy. So I almost think like simplicity is underrated.
Have you read the story of the Mexican fisherman?
No.
So it's there's this Mexican fisherman. He would get up every there's let me backtrack. There's an American tourist, a very successful businessman that was vacationing in Mexico, and he saw a Mexican fisherman every day. He would get in his little boat, row out, and catch some fish. So he had a conversation with them, and it's like, "What does your schedule look like? You know, it seems like it's great. You're living here in beach of Mexico." He was like, "Every day I get up, breakfast, go out and fish, bring them home, grill them up." I have lunch with my family. I have a siesta. I meet love to my wife. Then I go into town and play guitar with my friends and have a late dinner. We did that over and over. It's like, well, it seems like you're catching a lot of fish. What if you brought someone in to help you? And then you could catch more and you could sell those. And then you could buy another boat. You could get a fleet and you could do more and more. And eventually then you get hired all out and then you could retire. And then you could get up and late, eat breakfast, go fish, come home, have a siesta, make love to your wife, and then go play guitar with your friends, and have a late dinner. And so the whole process is this very circular thing of we already have what we want, but we think we have to do this thing to get somewhere else. And it's this constant drive for more and more and more. What if it's not more and more and more? What if it's less?
I love that. Well, I think that's a good place to let the mic drop. Seth, thank you so much. Again, you're just a wealth of information.
Thanks,
Thank you
Krisstina.
again for your commitment to the quality of these products and introducing them to the world. And thank you for sharing your marketing genius with us today.
Thanks for having me.